How are we doing today, Mike?
Doing great, Frank.
All
Welcome
right.
to Perspective Shift.
Welcome.
Back in the hot seat.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cold.
It is cold in Arizona right now.
Yeah.
Woke up this morning, it was like 39, 40 degrees.
Yeah.
It's feeling great. The seasons are changing.
And it's the dry cold, which it's like dry ice.
Yep. We're walking into a very cool time right now. It's exciting to see kind of where things are at in this world that we live in. A lot is going on. We've had the elections. We had the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah, right.
We've had all sorts of stuff going on, and so it's definitely an interesting time.
It is, and that's brings us today. We're gonna over the last several podcasts we've been talking about utilizing the breath work to get you back to the sense of who you are.
Yeah.
So we're gonna dive right into go directly to awareness, present moment, or consciousness. How we're looking. We're gonna utilize the word awareness today, and when we start talking about awareness, like what is that? We have to distinguish and discern between awareness and the ego knowing. And awareness is just like this brilliant feeling of just letting go of everything. And everyone experiences almost every day for maybe a brief second. And a lot of times they experience it, they look at the activity that we're doing and they actually give homage to the activity, to why they fell into awareness. And we're here to tell you that's not the case. Mm-hmm. We have to come from awareness and head into activity rather than, because activity doesn't create awareness. Awareness allows activity to occur.
And give an example of that for those listening.
Well, it's kind of like I've used this before. When I was young, it'd be, the awareness of feeling good or what have you. I was off in the woods with my friends, maybe climbing a tree, building a fort, whatever. And then when I was asked, how was your day? And I said, it was good. Why was it good? And I start giving them the lay down of the activity I participated in. And then my ego mind went to say, well, that was a causation of feeling good. And it wasn't. It was the awareness of the activity in which we were doing, but didn't intellectually know it at the time.
And we do this, with everything, our relationships, our health.
Yeah.
Our work. I feel like we all do this.
And there came a point where I was like, okay, if the awareness or the activity creates the awareness, why isn't it working all the time? Why, when I go to the woods and climb a tree, how come I don't slip into that? Even like meditation, how come when I don't meditate, I don't fall into the state of awareness that we're all looking for? It's because awareness allows the meditation to occur. And every time we go into activity, we kind of move away from the awareness, but that's okay. But it's like where we're coming from, of the awareness and into the activity. It's what creates the great adventure that we're having in this world, a great experience. But we have to first learn how to seat ourselves in awareness. And even the breathwork, practices Mike and I were talking about, that you and I were talking about over the last, I don't know how many podcasts, is still a vehicle or an activity that allows you to get seated back into it, but it's not the causation of it. Because like when you breathe in, that's activity. Right there is the awareness. So the effortlessness of the activity, which the exhale, is what seats you there. And when you can recognize that feeling, it's just this tremendous relief off your body, like this freeing feeling. It's really true freedom.
It's kind of too like when we go on vacation, right? We always give the credit, if you will, to the vacation. Oh, I relaxed because I was at this beautiful beach. That's what I love, is the beach. And so our mind turns the beach, or this beautiful area, into this oasis of peace. And in reality, it was us allowing ourselves to experience peace, to experience flow, which is in reality no thought. We're constantly narrating multiple stories in our head on a daily basis throughout the day, all day long. While we're doing tasks, we're narrating, what's going on, what we're worried about, what we're excited about, what we want. And we never have like that free moment of like Frank, like when he just breathed out, that no thought, that moment, that space is very minimal in our day-to-day lives. But on vacation, there's a lot of that space. And so we're attributing this space to something outside of us. Some of us may say it's the vacation. Some of us may give that power to another individual, like a romantic partner, and say, you know, I have to have this because they make me feel whole, rather than coming from a place of being whole. Like we were talking about before we got on air, St. Francis of Assisi said it best: what you are searching for is where you are searching from. So at the core of this statement, what we're trying to go out there and accomplish, attain, complete, if we can start from that space, then opportunities, doors, etc., open up for us to have that experience, rather than, like you said, Frank, kind of chasing our tail.
Yeah, and what that's the thing is that you're talking about, like when we go on vacation, it's learning to discern. Is it the ego mind that's being temporarily satisfied, or is it the true awareness that we're seated in? And there's a difference, because if I believe that making my way to Hawaii is going to grant me this beautiful peace and solitude and this ultimate feeling, you know, the second I land, I have to get the car, got to rent the car, and then you make your way to the condo, wherever you're staying at the beach, and you get there. In those moments, you're there. So the wanting of Hawaii ceased to exist from the egotistical mind. So there's a weird sense of satisfaction, but it doesn't bring you seated into awareness. So you still always have this overarching, okay, where we're going for dinner. Do you want to go down to the beach first? Do you want to hang out at the pool? All these activities you start doing actually are masking the idea of what you were doing when you were what we call quote unquote home and at work. But you're still not seated there. You're still lost in activity. And the human mind and the ego gets momentarily and temporarily for the all part of it satisfied. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about going to that place where you just... And then as we head out into activity, we bring the awareness with us. But the second I start to look at something, I'm okay with it. I'm starting to judge it. I'm trying to explain it rather than just being with it. So that, you know, the more I step into this searching, or this kind of, I don't want to call it searching, but obsession of diving into this awareness, I realize my activities are cleaner. And what I mean is they don't disturb me. Even if something comes across that was deemed in my egotistical mind to say this ought not to happen. If this does, I need to get rid of it. And when it did happen, it doesn't faze me anymore like it did. And then it disappears like every other activity. So I didn't have to do any work. It
just falls away.
Yeah,
naturally.
just like a cloud. Like, hey, even the hurricane that hit Tampa is gone now, right? Things like that always disappear. But the awareness of the hurricane, the awareness of Tampa never leaves. And that's the thing we're coming from. When you seat yourself there first, then head out into activity. Because activity does not create awareness. Awareness allows activity. Just like a movie does not create a screen. The screen allows the movie to be created and viewed by the audience. If you took the screen away, the movie, the modulation of lighting and pixels wouldn't even find their way onto anything that would be visible. It would just dissipate into the dark sky.
Yeah, into the ether.
Yeah, so the awareness then, in this case, would be the screen. When we become the screen, we see ourselves from the screen. And then like Mike said, that beautiful quote by St. Francis, when you come from that place, then head out into the experience, whatever you're doing, going to work, going to Hawaii. Then you have this deep sense of peace and satisfaction. And there's where the saying comes, wherever you go, their I am. And if you're not connected to I am, you can be chasing tail, whether you're in Hawaii or whether you're on, someplace you don't desire. You'll still be miserable, and that's what happens. It's what we call in our culture, in the Western culture, the midlife crisis. Why? Because you thought if you did all these things, got the great job,
got the partner, got the house with the picket fence,
got the children, got all these things, that you would find yourself seated in this place called awareness, because we all knew it when we were children, like we knew it without the intellectual understanding. We didn't really talk about it, but when I went to the park or playground and found other children there, and they immediately became my friends. The thing is I didn't take their name and numbers down. I certainly didn't crowd them. I didn't take the jungle gym home with me. I left it there where it remained. And when I left, the reminiscences or the essence of who I am, or the I am, was always with me. But somewhere along the line, it's like, oh, I felt good because I was at the playground and I made these friends. And so now, how many playgrounds can I hit today and how many friends can I get? So now you're taking numbers and now you're driving everyone around you, not especially yourself.
Creating this checklist, if you will, from the mind.
Yeah, what happened in the activity is what's causing the awareness. I'm like, no, the awareness is allowing the activity to accrue. And then we start to realize when I go to awareness first. So it's kind of like when I wake up in the morning, like Mike said, he started out this podcast. There's a lot of stuff going on there. We had the election and, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fought. So, and everyone's like, especially when it came to the fighting, I was like, what did you think about the fight?
Yeah.
And so, my ego will tell you what I thought about it. And I think, people ask me because
your boxing background.
Yeah, but I don't know any more than anybody else.
I was excited to ask you about it. That's what Kayla and I were talking about after. I was like, I can't wait to talk to Frank about the fight.
Yeah, it's interesting because we could sit all day and talk about like what we thought about it and stuff like that. But but it's interesting. But when you come from that state, so every day I wake up and every night I go to sleep, I seat myself in that awareness. I get lost in it all day long. But now when I get lost in the outside world, I know how to seat myself quickly. Again, we're all at different levels. And I can say this because over the last 30 years when I'm studying this, in the first freaking 20 of them, it was all intellectual. I knew the right things to say. I knew, how to be in a conversation with people like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm like, no, it wasn't experiential. There were moments of experiential, but I thought it was all the exercises and the
well, that's what school teaches us.
Yeah.
So
does.
I wouldn't be surprised that you felt that way. I remember going through that too.
No, but my obsession because like when I would go to some of these retreats, I would feel this immense lightness of, man, I'm free. And then I go home and I'm like, oh, I need to live at this retreat.
Yeah, right.
That's probably how cults, that's how cults actually started. So Mike and I are definitely not suggesting the cult because you are, you don't need anyone outside of you. Like whether you go to a retreat of any sorts, it doesn't really matter at the level we're talking about. But then, because the retreat then onto itself is the activity.
Well, I mean, we're faced with cults all over the place. By definition, the religions are a cult. By definition, politics is a cult. We're constantly surrounded by these cults and like, hey, you got to pick a side.
Yeah, universities are cults. Like
exactly.
They tell you how to think and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but yet, the stuff that Mike and I are saying right now, and there are a handful of other people talking about this in relative to how many people are on the planet. When I say handful of people, to me, there's a lot of people talking about it, but nonetheless, Mike and I live in that world, so we tend to seek the people out, and we're going to air a couple of them today with some videos explaining how they look at awareness. And, but yeah, and so the first 20 years of this journey of what I deemed to be my spiritual journey was really intellectual jargon. And then, but through it, there was, I would fall into that awareness. That's what kept me in the jargon. I thought it was like, okay, if I study this or read this book, this next book will feel good. Because I remember reading like A Power of Awareness many years ago, and that it did something to me. And then, okay, it's in the book. It really wasn't in the book. And then years go by, and I talk about this to people, whoever would sit there and want to listen. Probably drove a lot of people nuts over my years. And then like Powerful Awareness came out. I'm like, oh, that's it right there. It's, oh my God. So I remember sitting in the bookstore, picking it up and just looking at it. And next thing you know, I read the whole book.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got to get home. And I'm like, that was it. So I actually read the book. It's the first time I ever did that, where I read a book and then purchased it after.
Yeah, that's
like I could
funny.
easily put it back on the shelf because it was at Barnes & Noble. It wasn't a library, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, that's it. Then I try to find other books that would do that. And I realized that wasn't it.
That seeking too. I remember that feeling. It's like there's something more. And for people listening to this, you get to this stage where it's like there's nothing we have to learn anymore. We don't need to take in any more information. Like, you're good. Now it's time to experience. Now it's time to be in that free flow state, that present moment.
Like, if you want to use the word seeking, use the word seeking for that, the continuous seeking for the awareness, right? Not an obsessive, Wall Street type of way where I'm seeking more money, I'm seeking more of this. It's this seeking of this feeling that exists. Everyone knows it exists. Some people just like, okay, I'm okay with being content. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of their journey. And, I have nothing to say about that. But we're here to go beyond contentment, because we came here, and I believe that everyone is going to go through multiple lifetimes till they finally get to the place where they find and see it into awareness. And then what happens from that point on, right? Well, then we become controllers of our universe, all right? So as we start to seek out this awareness, this feeling, this present moment, all of a sudden you feel it. And then once you're like, okay, let me put this in the bank. And like the second you put it in the bank, it disappears. Like, there's nothing to put in the bank. It is the bank. It is the experience. It is everything. And the human mind, especially the ego, cannot wrap itself around it. That's why with the breathing work that we do, as you're breathing, especially if anyone's ever done breath work where they'll say do like 10 to 20 deep breaths in, and then exhale out, and then you go into like a hold for about 15 seconds, and then you sigh out completely. What we call is a lion's breath, where you put your body into a vacuum. And these are all just modalities. And then you sit in an out hold where you got rid of all the oxygen in your body. Well, you got rid of the carbon dioxide in your body, I should say, not the oxygen. And you just sit there without taking any more oxygen in. And I always notice in the first couple of seconds, I'm seated. Then it's like, if I'm doing one that's 2 minutes, I'm like, oh, this feels really good. And like, all of a sudden, I'm like, I wonder how much more time I have.
I got to breathe. I know that feeling.
So, but it's the moments that preceded me thinking like, when's 2 minutes going to be up, is when I found that. And then, okay, now I know what it feels like. I know where it is. I know where home is. Just go there. So when I leave my house, I know how to get back home. So I don't have to go through a 15-minute breath work. Now I realize, okay, before I do my breath work, I put myself in awareness. Now when I do the breath work is exciting, like the child leaving the house with utter excitement, not knowing what's going to appear at this playground they've never been to, or the amusement park. Like, think about the first time of anything, like, that you've heard a song, or first time you were at, say, like Disneyland, or the first time you were at the beach. There was no egotistical knowing of the beach. But when you showed up with no expectation, and the awareness just overwhelmed you. And then we started like, oh, why? And then the ego came in. It's like, oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this thing, And then it just gets in the way. And that's why as children, we were easily amused, because there was no expectation or no intellectual jargon about what we just experienced. And then over time, we started reading philosophers and get deep into that, and poets. And that's what I look at, like poets and philosophers. I'm not knocking them, but what they're doing is they're trying to intellectually explain what they experience in that moment. And they'll never get to the causation because awareness is the causation. So you can't create a causation to get you to awareness because it is the very essence of causation. So everything is caused out of awareness. The other stuff that we talk about are correlations of the awareness.
Well, this is also why, I think it's Max Planck who said, consciousness is fundamental.
Yep.
Like everything comes out of consciousness. There's nothing before consciousness.
And that's why even Max Planck said, science advances one funeral at a time.
I love that.
What he means, like, I'm
all these old ideas dying off.
Yeah, because when somebody dies, somebody else comes new, and like they'll read Einstein's papers and Max Planck, and they'll add on to it. Mm-hmm. And that's why even in the spiritual world, you see some of the people in the spiritual world, they'll take an idea of somebody that was like a master at this for many years ago, and they'll dive into it and they'll try to dissect it, and they'll probably even try to prove something wrong. And I'm like, well, I think that's the ego getting involved in misunderstanding what the person was trying to say. Because even in what they were trying to say, they were trying to take you to awareness, but then at that moment you had to step out of the vehicle of whatever modality was in order to have the experience of awareness. So even what I'm talking about right now is a sign that says the beach is this way. And once I get to the beach, I don't need a sign.
Yeah,
it's just the beach.
What did Alan Watts say? It's like trying to bite your own teeth or see your own eyes.
Yes.
It's true. It's like you're trying to label something that can't be, Yeah,
and when Alan Watts says stuff like that, and Ram Dass said, like, if it's like being in Detroit and trying to take the bus to get there. Mm-hmm. It's like you laugh at it because you know the truth, and the empirical truth of that is lies there. Now, so when I could seat myself every day or every moment of the day, when I lose myself, I leave home, when I could get back to the awareness, then the external activity becomes brilliant. We're not here to get rid of it. But if people are in activity searching for something, I'm like, the seeking should be in the awareness. And then the outside activity is just like the kids going to the playground. They're not trying to accomplish anything, Hey, been to the playground 340 days. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was there 345 days. I'm like, like it's like you're marking it off. Like, how many hours you spend? Well, let's tally this up.
And that's the corporate world we live in.
Next thing you got some lunatic child that's swinging on the swing with his blanket, and he's sleeping with his thumb in his mouth because he wants the recognition of how much he was at the playground. And I laugh because I was that child as an adult, actually as an adult.
We all are.
And so like, oh yeah, well, I went to the gym for,
look at these accomplishments.
Yeah. It's like, people ask how long you go to the gym for. I'm like, I don't even fucking time it anymore. Like, I go for the activity of it. Some days I walk in, a couple of times over the last month, I walked in and I ran into a buddy of mine.
Yeah. And
we got into a pretty cool conversation. I don't like to use the word deep because what the hell does that even mean?
Yeah.
But a conversation, I got lost in. It was pretty cool. Next thing I look up, I'm like, I got to fucking go. I didn't even lift a weight.
You were just there.
Yeah. I didn't even lift a weight. And it was classic. And someone said, did you go to the gym today? I'm like, yeah. Like, where'd you work out? I'm like, my mouth.
Literally.
My so-called intellect, I worked out. But it was a great moment. So I was like, all right, no big deal.
That is good.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny, too, like the way we describe this is it's like this place that we're going to, and going back to that quote, what you're searching for, where you're searching from.
Yeah.
This doesn't ever evade us. It's always here. It's always around us. There's nothing to do. It's more like kind of like a stepping back. I think it's just because the mind is always narrating, and it's always like, is this safe? Should I do this? What I need to do to better myself? It's like constantly flip flopping, and it's like It's learning that flip-flopping is not bad, is not abnormal, is not something that shouldn't be going on. And then that creates like this space from the activity of the mind.
Yeah, I like how you said that, because there is nowhere to go when you're in awareness. Mm-hmm. But when you step out into the physical world, or what we call the experience of duality, right? Because we're coming from non-duality, see where it takes you.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get anywhere, but see where it takes you. And it's a really an amazing journey, but nonetheless, it goes back in the box at the end of the day when you're seated back into awareness. Everything just dissipates, just like when you turn the TV off, it becomes a screen again. But when the TV was showing the pixels and the light coming from it, you couldn't see the TV. Mm-mm. You know, I'm aware that TV's there because I'm looking in the direction. But I was telling Mike earlier, I'm like, can you imagine, like, you know, like every time you went to a movie, you showed up when the screen already had what we call activity press upon it, such as like previews and stuff like that. And so you've never seen a screen. You just seen this movie, or, you know, previous to movies, and then the movie would start. And then one day you show up extraordinarily early, and you get in there and you just see this blankness. You're like, what the hell is that? And then you go out and you get the manager. It's like
something's wrong in here.
Something's wrong here. Because most of us, when we were children, we knew it, but not intellectually, that the screen is paramount, fundamental. Consciousness is fundamental. Mm-hmm. And the screen then becomes presence, existence, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Then from there, you can create a movie and reflect upon it. But it's not to get anywhere. It's not to get anywhere. It's, let's see where it takes me. Mm-hmm. It's completely different. So when you start from the awareness, let's see where it takes me. Rather than when you're trying to get to awareness, because everyone's trying to do, like, I have to accomplish something. You know, religion will say, in order to get into the kingdom of heaven, you must do these sacraments. And then I'm like, can you put that in writing? You know, because like, who knows this, right? Because the person that and the kingdom of heaven, I was led to believe it happens when you die, and I'm like, yeah, but this asshole's still alive, so how the fuck do they know? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're really gonna tell me like you've been there and came back, type of thing? And you know, as my young mind was trying to like. That's why I'm like, fuck this shit, you know, mm-hmm. This is stupid. But yet I still did it because I didn't want to be caught on the wrong side of history, as they say, right? So you went along with it, right?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like I don't think this is real, but
little sense of fear, you know, in the
I have nothing else to compensate. And I wasn't like the type to necessarily go against it, because to me that's another cult. That's just I'm gonna fight. Now this cult is fighting with this cult. I'm like, that's just a nutty thing to do.
And whatever you resist persists. It's both sides.
Yeah, you just created your own. Yeah. Now, but I guess if I did that, I would be in charge of my cult rather than just a member. You know.
Oh, you'll find like-minded people, and
yeah. But the problem with being a cult leader is, man, you got to make up shit every day to satisfy these people for staying. Like, think about
it's got to be tiring.
It's got to be tiring. Like, what are you gonna tell us today? I'm like, oh fuck, I had a dream last night, and you know, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god. You know, I'm like, oh shit, they're buying into this stuff, right? And then, but every day you got to come up with a new story.
Yeah. Oh.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How to get?
See, that's what the news does and calls it news.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
We got to come up with, holy shit! Hurry up, get this monkeypox story out. We don't. People aren't afraid of COVID anymore.
And the news is getting really creative and sloppy with these stories. What I mean sloppy is the average person has a higher IQ than I think the media leads on to. And I mean, when they're in the IQ state, they're still in what I call the persona or the ego, all right? But they realize this is bullshit. And they know it's bullshit because they know there's an essence of truth, but I'm like, you're not going to find it by somebody telling you something. The essence of truth is seated in awareness. And then from there, you step out into the experience. So fundamentally, consciousness is the only truth, right? And then how I experience it. But if I'm trying to get from the experience into consciousness, it's a bit wonky.
Yeah.
You know, it's like trying to comb my hair by walking up to a mirror and pressing upon the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like trying to like move my hair on the mirror. I'm like, that's just a mere reflection. That's not, you know, you have to actually touch your head.
That's a good analogy, though.
Yeah.
Because it is like, trying to go outside of you to fix something that can only start with
And then what happens when you get caught in the egotistical setting is like, you think there's something wrong with the mirror. So then you take that mirror down, you go to Home Depot, get another mirror, put it up, you got the same fucking problem. So then you take that mirror down, you go to Lowe's, because you think it's the mirror they sold you, right? And you go to Lowe's, you come home and put that one, it's not the same thing. And someone's like, hey, go to Ace Hardware. They have really good mirrors there. So by this time, you're so frustrated. You go to fucking Ace Hardware, you get a mirror, you throw it in the back of your car or whatever the fuck you got. And you're so frustrated that you roll the window down, you light a cigarette, right? And in the midst of you doing that, the wind blows your hair. And then you put the mirror up, like, fuck, it was the mirror. Now you start selling the mirror from Ace Hardware.
It's Ace Hardware that did it.
Yeah, so it's like,
God, I got to tell everybody to go to Ace Hardware
store.
You know, and this is what we do with different diets and different
everything,
and that. You know, it's this.
Yeah, it's this.
I found it.
Yeah.
I swear. You know, I got to tell everybody about it.
But they were unaware of the wind blowing through my hair is what moved my hair into more what I call suitable, and just by happenstance. But I thought it was the mirror, and I'm like, no, the mirror. Like, and the best was when I went to Home Depot and say, like, what's wrong with the mirror? It's broken. I'm like, is it cracked? I'm like, no, this reflection's really bad.
Yeah,
like,
the reflection's horrible.
So,
well, sir,
I don't like the way I look.
Sorry.
I want a new mirror. And the guy's like, there's something wrong with this. But just take the mirror back. Don't even argue with him.
Exactly.
You know? So Tommy made it to Ace Hardware. So I'm like, are your mirrors broken? They're like, we never saw you cracked mirror. I'm like, not a cracked mirror. Just a mirror that doesn't make me look bad. And then like, just sell the fucking mirror to get this asshole out of here.
Exactly.
Like, you know, and that's how maybe that's how the universe looks at us in our egotistical settings, because like.
It's gotta, because you're right. When we look at it and like this, you know, it's laughable, it's funny to joke about.
Yeah, it is.
Because like, it's so true. Like, how can we expect to go out and be experiencing anything whole or healthy or, you know, a forward moving experience when we go into everything with such self-doubt, poor self-talk, you know, self-disgust, self-hatred, just, you know, anger in general, or we have like this very kind of negative outlook, and we're walking into the world and we're saying, why is the world so divisive? Why is the world so mean? Why is there so much hate? And we're not looking within at all, and we're not saying, whoa, I'm participating in this. I'm creating this.
Yeah.
Where I'm coming from is not a sound, healthy place. We don't look at that. In fact, we're taught that it's normal and okay to blame the outside world. Oh, it's because of all of these, you know, things in the world. If all of these wrongs were righted, then everybody's going to be at peace. That's what's been going on my whole life. You know, it's because this existed, so we have to, you know, help this class, or, you know, this is what's going on, and we're taking freedoms and powers away from these people. And all along, none of us are talking about where we're coming from, like as individuals, you know, coming together. It's always somebody else's fault, and you know, if we just change this rule, or if we just make this a law, then this is going to help the situation. So we're out there like making all these laws, making all these rules, creating more problems and more issues, rather than explaining to people how this reality works and what this experience actually is. I love the quote. Somebody was telling me one time, like, or essentially what it is like, it's such a paradox. When you are in want of something, that's sending this signal to the universe that I don't have it. So you experience lack. I want this. I want that. And the moment you no longer want something is when it really shows up. And it took a long time for me to really learn that. But once I learned it, I really learned it.
And you have to stop anticipating what's supposed to show up.
Yeah.
Because that can then it can almost open up your heart a little bit. And then, the thing showed up. I figured it out. Like what? I meditated for 20 minutes, not 15. Mm-hmm. and it showed up, and I'm like, that's not really what happened. All right, because when you like, in other words, I can utilize an imagination thought like to generate a good feeling, but I realize nothing really transpired in the physical realm other than the feeling, and then I let go of the image completely. All right, because now I'm coming from awareness in order to have the imagination. Then I have to let go of that imagination and how it looked, and then hold on to the resonance of the feeling. And then let's see what happens from here. And when you're coming from that awareness outward rather than inward trying to get to the awareness, coming inward is a goddamn chore. The reason being is, I think it was Bashar. I think I watched it on YouTube when somebody was like, I'm trying to find myself. And he's like, please do me a favor. And he's like, stand over here. He's like, okay, now walk to yourself. And the person's like, what? Walk to yourself. And the guy was obviously perplexed while everyone else laughing. It's like, okay, you can't walk to yourself. You are yourself. You are awareness. You're just not aware of that. So when you see yourself in that, and then walk, wherever you go, there you are. But if you're stuck in ego mind, wherever you go, there the fuck you are. Mm-hmm. And we have to get that out of the way and have the experience rather than trying to say, when this happens, oh, the shit works. I'm like again, when I went to the playground, I didn't even know there was a damn playground there. I didn't know what kid was going to. So I didn't have anything, but yet it was the most glorious part of my life. It was the first time I went to the beach, first time. I didn't know what the ocean looked like, you know? So why am I supposed to know what this is going to look like? So I might use the vision of the ocean the first time seeing it as a generator of uplifting my energy, but I have to then let go because I might end up on a mountaintop somewhere, or I might end somewhere I don't even know. But all of a sudden it's like, this doesn't look like the beach. Meanwhile, you could be like in, you could be seated in the Grand Canyon and look at this like, I'm expecting a beach. What the hell is this big hole? Mm-hmm. Where most people are like, that's the most magnificent hole on the planet, you know? And it's because our expectations are limited to our previous experiences, giving the experience the reason why I'm whole. I'm like, no, your wholeness allowed the experience. And so when we start to seat ourselves first, so even now, like I go into that feeling and then I do my breath work. And then the breath work, I'm like, let's see where it takes me. Where I would do the breath work because I was tired. And then like, okay, I'm a little less tired, but I didn't quite get there. I didn't quite get there. But when I'm like, I'm like, oh, let's go into this and then see where the breath work takes me. Do it. Let's see where Hawaii takes me. Do it. Let's see where my job takes me. Do it. Let's see where this cab takes me. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Well, it's a completely different way of living.
And that's like when you start to realize that just like a GPS, it doesn't matter what turn I'm taking, I'm heading in the direction that, I want to, or for, to remember who I am, to remember this, I am this awareness. Mm-hmm. And so like for me, it takes a lot of pressure off when you're like, hey, no matter what way this plays out, it's all leading home. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, because of the way we're taught in society and all this, like, no, if something doesn't happen A, B, C, and D, then I can never achieve or be what, I've pictured or I've thought or I want to experience. And it's kind of like stepping away from this, like, rigid way that we have been taught to look at life.
Yeah, because, I like that you brought up the GPS because that reminds me of, like, when it popped into my head. It's kind of like, and there's a story out there, and however you take it, and I look at it just from a story vantage point, that you came here with a journey or a path in mind. Like the book is already written, the story's already written. But how do I approach it? How do I set up for it? Am I moping down this road? Am I skipping down this road? What kind of setting am I going down this road? When you go from the essence awareness, it's going to be exciting all the time. So that being said, when I head out into the world, I know my internal guidance system is going to lead me to this place that it wants me to experience, even though I don't know what the experience is. So when I'm saying like, okay, sometimes this is what happens. I'm like, okay, I want to experience this. And all of a sudden this happens. Oh my God, how'd you do it? Well, right before I went to bed at night, I said I want to experience this. And it happened. You might have just been lucky or really intuitive to see what was about to come upon. The reason being is like when I'm reading a book, and say you're reading a particular author, right? And you've read like 10 of their books. After a while, you see a pattern in how the author writes. Mm-hmm. So you can like, okay, I'm going to anticipate that another character is going to come in or something's going to happen. And by God, it does. Different character, different situation. So what it is over time, I become really good at pattern recognition when I head out into the outside world. So therefore, it seems like I predicted what was going to happen. It was what really did is I read the potential of the energy that may go that way. And when I nailed it, I think, okay, now I'm going to sell people on how to get what they want. I'm like, no, I read the potential, because then the next time, like, okay, what do you want? I'm like, well, if you're outside of your realm of potential or energy or off your path on somebody else's path, you're going to make that person feel stupid. And they're doing something like, in other words, they're heading to the spiritual world to feel better about themselves. And then we make them feel worse by saying you can have this thing. And I'm like, that thing that might not be paramount to them, but they're searching for some way to do that. And so I found that in my life where like, okay, I got this thing. I'm like, okay, what did I do prior to this thing happening? And then I try to relive that like Groundhog's Day. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not getting the same results. Why? Because I'm still looking for this particular thing to happen again and again and again and again. It's not really how it works. No. And we are pattern recognition beings. Just kind of like when you're heading out and you tell the GPS where you want to go, it triangulates. So it's a satellite in the sky, and then there's a unit connected into you, and then it triangulates down to where the end result is. Say here in Arizona, say I want to go to San Diego. Puts a red pin, then triangulates down, and it knows where I'm at. I don't have to tell it. It knows. And then it creates this blue line that's about this big on the screen or whatever. But then what happens is I get into my vehicle, say I'm using a car to get there. It will then grant me each individual directions at a time. And if I actually act on them, move out into the world, make a right-hand turn. If I fulfill that, make a right-hand turn, then it gives me more and more and more. And then I end up in this place that I've never been to even imagine, so to speak. I can imagine. But I get to this place because if I've been there, would I have needed GPS? No, I'm just redundantly experiencing life. It gets me there. Well, we have our own internal guidance system. When you seat yourself in awareness, it will push you out into experience that you actually agreed to have. Like, I don't know, something's wrong here. Like, you agreed to this. Mm-hmm. And for a higher purpose, you came in, it's like, why don't I remember it? Because you've never experienced it. Mm-hmm. What we're learning to do is remembering to trust our internal guidance system, right? But, like, if I went to San Diego for the first time, why didn't I remember this? Because the first time you're here, you haven't had somebody to experience it. So stop trying to remember something you haven't done. Mm-hmm. That's why we don't have a memory of it. But once I learn to fully trust my internal guidance system, that's the only memory I really need, if you will, to remember to trust that. And then life is flipping amazing. Whether you become a billionaire or not, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter whatsoever. And I think trying to, it's almost like I'm trying to get to San Diego, but I take a detour and I'm in Canada now. Right. Well, the GPS is not going to give up on me. It won't. It's just time to get to fucking San Diego. I'm just like, fuck. Mm-hmm. It's exhausting. Now you're sitting on the beach in San Diego talking about like, how did I end up in Canada? Jesus Christ, it's like, and then your buddy that was, left the same time was like, yeah, I've been sitting on the beach for fucking like, 3 weeks.
Where
like,
where
the fuck
buddy?
you been?
Where you been?
Now you're upset that he got there first, and that's kind of how I've lived my life. And I'm not even going to go out there and say this is how everyone lives their life, because I don't know everybody. But I'm assuming a great majority of us do, because I did. And then once I realized, wait a minute, mm-hmm. Why don't I have a memory? Because I haven't experienced it. So how would I have a memory? But I do start to remember. I have this internal guidance system, and it works way better than the one on my phone.
I do want to so something that helped me on my journey to understand that was I had to, I realized it was like an aha moment that everything we're taught by our parents, by our teachers, everything that we're shown in our sitcoms and our television shows and our movies, all supports this this mental monkey mind activity, and essentially portrays it as normal. And this is what everybody's going through, and that this is just how life is. And so, like, what I'm trying to say right now is we have been taught to truly live in an insane world. And we've been taught that that insane world is normal and that everybody's got to deal with it, and that's just the way it is. And I want you to know that's not true. And I can tell you this because I have stepped out of that weird paradigm, if you will, that was concocted and explained to me my whole life. And hey, this is normal. Where you watch the news, they tell you how to feel, you feel that way. You have a partner, and that partner, you know, you got to fight with, because it's normal to fight with a partner because one's a male and one's a female. And we're so different. We're taught all of these things that keep us trapped in this monkey mind. And you start to see those things for the bullshit that they are, and they begin to fall away. And it's weird. You like maneuver through this with ease.
But even the way we were raised and contained, you cannot keep awareness out. And what I mean is, so when you live in what we call real life, you're going through it, doing stuff, and you're following this line. But then you step into a comedy club, and a comedian with timing brilliantly will let you know what you're doing is nuts, and you fucking laugh your ass off. So there is this
it's great.
There is this life hack, if you will.
This sense of knowing that never goes away.
Yeah, but then you leave the comedy club, you laugh, and then you go back to doing it again.
Yeah.
So maybe like more comedy clubs you go to, the more you realize, man, why am I still doing this? It's kind of like when I used to watch Looney Tunes, especially Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And you had Elmer Fudd, and Bugs Bunny was always just like the bane of this guy. And and there were times where it was like you see him getting all set up, like, Elmer Fudd's getting all set up, and he's like, "Hey Doc, what's up?" He's like, "I'm looking for a whirly rabbit," and he's like eating the carrot. Like, what does this rabbit look like? Meanwhile, he's standing right there, and he doesn't see. And so this cartoon was letting us know there's two ways to live: one from the seated awareness, and the other one from just working so hard to get to this place that the thing is right in front of you that you're trying to get to, but Elmer Fudd doesn't realize. Never realized. Just like the coyote doesn't realize you're never going to kill the roadrunner. So how many seasons of this do we have to go through?
A lot.
It's like it's never going to happen.
We're waking up, man.
Yeah, we're waking up.
Walking into the age of Aquarius.
So there is this outlying understanding where it's like, how do I get out of this thing? I'm like, just realize you were already outside of it. It was contained within you. It's not something to get out of. You are the container.
I best saw this illustrated one time. I forgot where I saw this, but it was it was this picture of this little kid. I think he was like an Asian kid, and he had a boot on his throat, and he was like being pushed into like the dirt or water or something. And then they showed the next picture, and it was his own hand inside of the boot, holding his boot, holding himself underwater in the dirt. And I was like, this picture illustrates what we're doing on a daily basis so well. It was like so great. We don't realize that we're holding our own head underwater. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
photo?
Think about the reason we don't notice that, because the camera's so close.
Yeah.
Then when we get seated into awareness, we see everything.
Yeah, it's like stepping back.
Yeah, you see the hand in the boot, so to speak. But before you didn't, because you were so damn close to it.
I think people listening might have seen this photo. It's a very powerful photo. It shows
but even
one
if they
and
didn't,
then next to it.
Even if they didn't, you exhibited it so well to where they can see it in their head. And that's what it is. When it was up close, all you saw the boot and his face being pressed into the soil, whatever it was. But then when you stand back, you see the arm in the boot. You realize that arm is attached to the very person.
Yep.
And it's like, wait a minute, this is nutty.
That's the world we live in.
Yeah. So what every human being has in common is we come from awareness. That's like the one thing I'm like, well, we have in common. Like, there's probably other things we have in common, right? But the one thing everyone has in common is they're aware of something's happening. They're aware. Like, right? Are you alive? Yes, I'm aware of it. What happens when I die? You'll still be aware. How do you know? I'm like, well, you're still aware now, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And then I can say, how many times did you actually die in your lifetime? Like, what do you mean? Well, every time, where's my 18-year-old body?
Yeah.
It's gone. Mm-hmm. But I'm aware. That awareness didn't change. The circumstance situation that my 57-year-old body made experience has changed, but my awareness of it hasn't. And
it's funny. We've all kind of tricked ourselves too that like because the mind is running, because his body is firing, it has created the awareness. That's like what science was like trying to prove, that like the brain created.
Made me happy.
They created this sense of awareness when that's not true. It's this awareness is like around
created the mind.
And that's what the body came out of, and we don't look at it that way.
Nope.
We think like, oh, consciousness and all this is happening because the mind made that, and science is now saying no. Consciousness has always been behind that. It comes out of consciousness.
Yeah, and there's only like, right, as far as I know, it's like compared to how many scientists are out there. And I might be wrong on this, but there's only a handful of scientists that are studying consciousness as being fundamental, not physics.
Yeah. It's just beautiful to see the results and the science coming out.
Yeah, because what we deem as physics, whether it's Newtonian or quantum, is just an expression or experience in what we call, like I mentioned earlier, a pattern that happens. Right? Like if I take this
guitar
this
pick.
item, this guitar pick, it's actually pretty cool.
It is cool.
It's a stone or a crystal, something like that. It's interesting to play my guitar with it. Mm-hmm. But if I take this and I open my fingers, we know the pattern's going to happen. It's going to drop. All right. So that pattern happens. That's in the Newtonian physics. Then you get into the quantum world where we're dealing with energy, and I start to. If I became like an avatar and I can control my energy, I can then have some bit of output of what's going to occur to a degree, right? But I'm not an avatar.
Where
although I am an avatar,
and it pushes up.
Yeah, my I'm an avatar when I'm seated in consciousness, but when my ego gets involved, because the ego doesn't want to lose a bet. Like I don't want to lose a bet, so I'm not going to go there, because the ego's like, I got to protect myself. So if I say, if my mind, says, okay, this is what's going to appear, and it doesn't, I lose the bet, and I don't want to play that game, because the ego mind does not like to get beat at all. And so
takes it real personally.
Yeah, but within the seed of Newtonian physics and quantum physics was consciousness that allowed all these things to happen. At some point, I imagine scientists, a group of people, are going to come together, and they're going to have something that actually explains quantum physics, because quantum physics explains Newtonian physics. So, and like, where do we go? I'm like, well, can we explain consciousness? No, the screen can't play itself. Mm-hmm. It's where everything comes from. Like, how far can I go into the sky? Well, when you look at the night, like, okay, how far are those stars away? Well, there's still something behind it allowing me to see it. Mm-hmm. During the day, it's like, oh, it's a cloud. Cloud's probably, how far it's still in the atmosphere. And so the sky looks a lot closer during the day. But at nighttime, it's like, how far are those stars? Huge. Oh, they're a million miles away. Million light years away, I should say. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I'm like, how do I know that? Like, how can I see a star? There must be a sky that goes further than that. And it's like, damn.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, it's fascinating, but it leads us back to we are the awareness, then heading out. And this is where we get into a place where, how do I judge a moment? Mm-hmm. I've never been here before. And then the ego starts to break down. It doesn't get rid of it because the ego has the experience. So, but the ego now isn't telling me this is bad. The ego's like, oh, this is interesting, because when I come from that place and head out, the ego is not in charge. But when the ego is trying to get when I'm trying to get to that place, the ego's in charge, and then I become Elmer Fudd. Trying to find a whirly rabbit, and it's right in front of me. It's right there. It's like shotgun's loaded and everything. It's eating its carrot and shit.
That's us for sure.
It is.
I said we pull in one of these videos that we got.
Here's
I think that's kind of a perfect segue for us.
All right.
Attention. How does attention come into?
Attention is just mental alertness. Mental alertness and awareness are two different things. Awareness is purely life. What level of intensity your life is functioning, that is the level of awareness you are. But mental attention, you can put it on and put it off. Your aliveness, you cannot put it on and put it off. It's on. What is the level of intensity is all there is. But mental attention, you can close it, isn't it? You can turn it on, you can turn it off, isn't it so? You can pay attention to something, you can withdraw your attention from something. Is it so? So that's a different dimension. That is the act of the mind. That is again not reality. It is just attention of the mind. It is the act of the mind. Mind can do many things. But it's of a different dimension. It is psychological. It is not existential. We'll leave it there. Oh, more questions?
I love that.
That was perfect.
I love
that
it.
was perfect.
I'll leave it there. Any more questions? Hell yeah, Sadhguru.
Actually,
He just dropped the mic.
Yeah, just dropped the mic. We're done.
Any more questions? I'll leave it there.
And it is like,
but it is that simple. It's funny.
Yeah, if there's anything you ever want to seek in the world, is getting seated from awareness. Because it is, the mental activity can shut off. I could be, like, think about it. You could be pissed at something, like your boss did or whatever, if you have that situation. And then something else grabs your attention. You completely forget about it until nothing's grabbing your attention. And then the human mind wants to go to attention. So what is attention? It's actually reaching out and creating tension, right? So how much tension can my physical body handle and my mental capacity handle? And I'm telling you right now, not a lot. I can't handle a lot.
Also,
just ask my wife.
Also, too, let's look at attention like as from a business standpoint, right? We live here in America, et cetera. So Americans, we are constantly having our attention fought for. Through online media, social media, everything that's going on. Shit, we're trying to ban TikTok because
are we?
Yeah, they're trying to ban TikTok right now because American companies can't keep that attention, and the company's getting too big. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, they're trying to get them to sell the companies, to American company. But what are they all fighting for? They're all fighting for our attention. And so if the most dollars, like YouTube and all these companies out there are being poured into attention, there's got to be something to it, Are people making money off of this attention? Like, what is it? Why is this so important? And it's because where attention goes is where energy flows.
Yeah, but then that energy that's flowing in that type of direction becomes fragmented. Like, all right, so let's get back to, he asked me about what I thought about the fight.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is it was the first time Netflix ever had done a live show like this.
Yeah, like a boxing event or whatever.
Yeah, and I guess its server couldn't handle it, so it was buffering and doing this, and people thought everyone's checking their Wi-Fi that day. And so I watched the fight, and I didn't really care to want to watch it. And I didn't have any judgment to it either way. It's just like, okay, I'm going to watch it. So at least when people start asking about it, I could at least give them some answer.
Yeah, talk to it.
But it was very interesting when I watched that fight because, like everyone was thinking Mike Tyson was going to come out with this vicious person. If he did, Jake would have been in trouble because Jake doesn't exude that type of personality. We haven't seen it in him. But Tyson didn't, and the energy field on the planet is changing, so he's changing. He's getting older and wiser. So everyone expected this vicious Tyson that came out that was really, really, really stuck in his ego back in the day. And over the years, you hear him talking about being happy and all this stuff. And so all of a sudden, he stepped in the ring. People are like, oh, he's old. I'm like, well, that might have something to do with it, but not the age. I think it was the energy that he's like, why am I wanting to even beat up a 27-year-old person? Again, I can't get into Mike's head to say this, but
Of course.
when I look at it from that vantage point, I'm like, that's more likely what happened. Because the dude's in shape, right? Like, what happened to him? Everyone's trying to, they come up with different excuses. His knee
He hurt
brace.
his knee, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, and, or does he, okay, he's torn by the $20 million he's going to get paid, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not knocking him for that, because maybe he could take that money and help out a lot of people that need it, right?
Do great with it.
And put a show on from, like, I am no longer wanting to kill somebody. Because I remember early on in his career, he was asked in an interview, he was like, when you punch someone, what do you think? And he's like, when he does this right uppercut, which like his famous strong punch, then with the left hook, but it was a right uppercut, he would literally squat down. He envisioned pushing somebody's nose to the brain.
Yeah.
I'm like, not too many boxers prior or even since had ever said that. I'm like, that's freaking wow. Like, it's most like to outpunch the guy, knock him down. Because when you knock a person down in boxing, it solidifies. There's no argument who won the fight. But trying to put his nose through his brain, that's a bit much. Well, he's no longer that person.
No.
And so everyone's thinking like he can just turn that on. I'm like, yeah, he can, but he's lost touch with that frequency. And that's how I look at it.
That's exactly it.
He lost such that frequency, and then we have all these myriad excuses to why. And this is my ego talking, by the way, too. So let's not get caught up in my story either.
Of course.
But
I do think this fight was very symbolic of the change we're watching our planet go through, our fundamental hive mind consciousness going through.
At the same time,
it is.
How many people watch this?
Over 240 million, 280 million.
So 280 million people wanted to watch someone get beat up. That's telling too. Like, where are we?
The yin and yang.
Yeah. I'm not saying maybe we did this for the last time. Who knows? Maybe if this is the pinnacle of watching people get beat up, we can't go any further from here. So it's going to go from 280 million maybe down to 2 million people watching this stuff, right? And I'm not trying to, anyone that's in the sport, I'm certainly not going to interfere with what people are going to do or not do. But, there was something telling that many people wanted to watch an old man, I think, or a young man beat up an old man, or an old man beat up a young man, how we look at it from the ego standpoint. And like, that to me is telling as well. That everyone tuned in on a Friday night, me included. So I'm not making excuses.
And this was around the world. This wasn't just America.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a global
And then
event.
I think the stadium itself was like 70,000 people.
Yeah, that's nuts, too.
Yeah. So all these people generated to come here to watch that particular fight, to see what would happen. But I also think in the hearts of everyone, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. Because I think at the end, when Jake led off, held back, it appeared that way, that people felt that endearing. And then the last 10 seconds of the last round, he kind of bowed.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I think everyone liked that. Like, some people that's fucking bullshit. I want to see him knock him out.
No.
That's
I thought that was very symbolic of the time we're stepping into, which is like, hey, this isn't a cold-hearted rip his head off.
No.
Maybe 15 years ago, that would have been the case. Oh, I don't care what it is, rip his head off.
When they did this, and then like
thumbs down.
The other gladiator had to stab and kill the guy because it was the emperor was like,
thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs down. And the emperor would actually listen to the crowd. So the emperor actually wanted to give the crowd what they wanted. So like now it's like if someone said, do you want Jake to knock him out? And they'd be like, no.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that's a moment that we saw.
No.
And it was real symbolic. I thought that was...
But again, it's like,
cool
just when you look at that from more awareness standpoint, it just is. It was an experience. So I don't mean to like say, okay, we need to stop these things. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just interesting. I'm looking at it differently than I've looked at it maybe 20 years ago. If you ask my opinion on this particular fight, it would be completely different analysis.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I say we pull up the Muji video.
Been a long time since I've been wanting to talk to, I think maybe 3 or 4 years. So just full of gratitude. I've just been deepening in inquiry since Rishikesh in 2019, and oh, I feel some nerves coming up.
Yes, it's okay. And don't rush. Don't rush. We take your time.
Thank you. I find when I speak, I get caught in personal identity more, and I find it harder to drop back into the stillness, into the awareness of speaking when I'm speaking like socially, even with Sangha members.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, is it possible to stay in the awareness as well as speak?
The advice to stay in the awareness is operative, functional for a while until the seeming duality comes to an end. You see, because we are never speaking as the awareness itself. Sometimes we are speaking from awareness to a certain degree, but it's as though awareness plus, which in reality doesn't exist. But in the mind, it feels, yes, I can see that when something enters into conversation, it's as though automatically one finds oneself in a sort of personal mode. And that's why you say, then I feel like I've pulled out of my natural state, and it takes a while to then come back in. But you must also recognize that the one speaking, is itself a movement inside the unchanging awareness. Awareness did not leave itself. You see? I was giving example just the other day, I was saying, look, I was giving example because somebody was asking, they were not understanding what you mean by awareness. What you mean by awareness? Oh my gosh, I cannot know how to answer this. What you mean by awareness? So I was giving an example like I would do if I was trying to explain to a young person, like a child or something, that if I move my hand like this, I'm aware of my hand moving, is my awareness moving, you see? And then that helps a little bit. So no, the awareness is actually not moving. My perceiving is not moving. I say, okay, what about if I add to the movement of my hands, my attention is going to the hands. My attention is moving and hand moving. Is the awareness moving, you see? And many people will say, I got it. No, that's not moving. The awareness is not moving. So in the same way, I can say that even the sense I come out when I go into interaction with others, I come out, meaning I come up as a person. Awareness does not lose anything of itself. And as soon as this becomes clear for you, that even the mode of personhood, you see, which is like a reflex in this realm of consciousness, the human common realm, that's not actually ultimately true. Something goes into the state of personhood. You may say the seeker aspect of consciousness, you see, becomes disappointed. I get pulled again into a shape of person, and something doesn't like it, and it takes me some time to stabilize. But this actually is not actually what happened. At an experiential level, it feels like that. A state of distractedness has happened, and that distractedness means something, that I'm pulled out of shape, or I'm pulled into shape from no shape. You see. But as you become more grounded, actually you're looking from the place of awareness, that becoming a person is not something that happens to awareness really, but in the in the mic field of movements and so on, it appears as that. You are actually at the very you are at a very auspicious stage in your say journey of transcendence. One time we're going to throw this away also, but for the moment it's useful, because you are able to detect. The horse is not galloping out into the country. It starts to gallop, and you realize, no, I don't want to be here. I want to be in the stillness, and that is also auspicious to a way. It is not the final reality, but it is the fruit of what I may call of your earnestness. And that stage is also important because some things we cannot just solve intellectually. You are having the experience and then also realizing, no, I don't want to be in that shape. You see? Well, what does it mean then? Are you not able to speak to people? If by speaking in the dynamic realm means that then your wider space is covered up, but it's only a seeming. It's only a seeming. And as you continue to keep checking that even here, I'm feeling some anxiety in the body and some movements in the body, but they are just clouds passing. And I want to just refresh an example I used recently because someone came and said, Guruji, I'm listening to you and I really follow you. But I'm finding that sometimes when my mind comes, it's so strong and I just, I'm shut off again. I'm gone with it. And how can I stop my mind? And I said, listen to this. And I'm saying it again freshly now. It must become clear that when you say, my mind is so strong and it has the power just to pull me about like that, I want you to understand that both the mind activity and all of its, sort of erratic behavior, and the one who suffers from it are like two sides of one coin. Please listen. They are like two sides of one coin. Awareness is not a coin. When you are aware of the mind stuff, okay, oftentimes we are feeling, I'm seeing the mind stuff, but I'm watching it from the position of a person. And the mind is troubling my person. But the person is the factory for the mind trouble. At your stage of seeing, the person is trying to stop the trouble, but the trouble only comes for the person. And the person, both the person and its troubles are both on the screen of perception.
That's a quandary.
That was a great clip.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a great clip.
I like how you explained that because when you talked about like the mind and then what's experiencing the trouble from the mind is two sides of a coin.
He illustrates that well.
And he goes, awareness isn't the coin. Awareness is the space that allows the coin to be seen. Mm-hmm. And so we actually go there. It's like an actor playing a role in a movie. And like did Anthony Hopkins really eat somebody because he played Hannibal? It's like, no, it was a role he played. And we can separate from that, but when we get into our own heads, we're so close to that damn movie, we think it's real. And so that's where these fractals in the outside world and the world of duality teach us in patterns. Like when we separate, like when we get further away, you could see, like Mike illustrated with the boot. The further we get away, I'm like, that's just a persona that's responding to the director in this world we call a movie or a drama. But what's witnessing it? The thing that's witnessing it isn't being touched by it. Just like a screen at a movie theater. Say the movie theater was built in like 1950 and it's still up, same screen. And say there's been like 10 million movies played on it. Do you think any of those movies imbued onto the screen? No, it goes off. It's still this white screen. Mm-hmm. Nothing permeated on there or got stuck in there like, grape jelly. It's not like, no. So we are the awareness then creating this character and going out and having this experience. And that's the way you get away from the suffering. But even that, what I'm telling you now, is intellectual, so it can't quite you get there. It is that sign that says beach this way. But the sign isn't the beach, nor if you were there, you wouldn't need the sign. But it's a pointer. And people like Muji, Sadhguru, and a myriad of other ones that are pointing in this direction to realize you are that.
I feel like when this was going on, this clip, I feel like what kind of popped into my mind was that saying, being of the world, or being in the world, not of the world.
Exactly.
You know, like I thought that was a good representation of what was being discussed here. Like it's recognizing, hey,
Yeah.
I get there's mind. I get there's a character. I get I'm participating. But at the same time, I'm not of it.
Yeah.
I can detach from it. I'm this awareness. And so, yes, I'm not denying this human experience. I'm not denying the ego experience. I am the character. I have the mind going on. But I can also see this for what it is. I can have this level of awareness. So I'm not of the world, you know. I'm here. I'm not denying.
But you're in it. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of something that popped in.
And think about this, like, you know, I'm going to bring the actor thing into. I tend to always do this. I don't know why. I've never acted. Well, I've acted my whole life with my kid. Just now I got paid for it.
Love it.
Yeah, it actually cost me money in my marriages and shit. No, but anyway,
Right.
don't digress. But anyway, so I imagine if I was an actor, my ultimate goal would get to a place where I just stepped onto a set without a script and responded to everybody else and just kind of improvised, right? Because we find out a lot of movies where that was an amazing scene, and they say, well, the actors went off script. They just were given a scenario and they went into it. Because think about, for me anyway, personally, if I had to memorize lines, I'm worried about the words I'm going to say rather than the essence of the action in which the character wants to get into. Mm-hmm. Rather than, if I get into that state, the words will naturally come out. And that's what we call improv. So it's like, yeah.
Great
so
point.
the people, so like Marlon Brando would say, what's my motivation? In other words, what state do you want me in? Mm-hmm. And then just step away and film, and I will just talk. But if you give me a script, that doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
And so as we understand, we are awareness. Okay, now from awareness, I'm stepping into that state and then heading out. That's where we have the great life. Yeah, we still, do these things. We don't sit in some cave and do nothing, but I'm starting from here. What's my motivation? Awareness. And then let's see what we can play with here.
Yeah.
But if I go in and script it, this is why we get all upset. Like, oh, this wasn't supposed to happen today. I'm like, says who? Like, what do you mean this wasn't supposed to happen? Oh, I'm supposed to show work and this happened. The person was supposed to say anything. And I'm like, where the hell did you read that? But they program their day based on some other day that they thought might have been perfect. And they checklisted every little thing that happens, as much as they can do that. And then all of a sudden they step into another day and I'm like, God damn it. That's like,
it never happened.
Every year you go to a particular spot on the planet for vacation. And if you anticipate the first one, by the time you go there the fourth time, you're just like fucking I don't know if you'd be miserable, but you'd be like, hey, hon, you want to go somewhere else next year? Because you're still trying to relive that first one. Rather than, you can go to the same spot every single day and not relive the same day.
Exactly.
I don't care where you live. You could probably live in some farm in the middle of nowhere, and every day look at the world as different. You don't need to travel.
That's going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of like you and I when we have this podcast. Every time we show up, it's
something different.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, there's an essence that keeps showing up, but different bullshit every time comes out of my mouth.
This last clip that we have, it's tying in perfect. So this one is Peter Crone, and he just posted this 6 days ago, and so it's kind of cool how it relates to what we're talking about today. It's called "It Doesn't Matter What You Do."
When we don't know what to do, which, let's face it, is pretty much every day for all of us, right? Myself included. It's got everything to do with the absence of trust. It doesn't matter what you do, because we still have to face the things that we're here to face. You as a being on your journey here with whatever karma you're here to resolve and transcend will still have to face whatever those constraints are. So that's the first news to hopefully give you some reprieve and a bit of relief, is that it doesn't matter. It matters on the human physical level because there's differences, but it doesn't matter at the most profound and important level in terms of our own spiritual evolution. So you can take a breath. Secondly, what I really want to point out for everybody is that faculty of the human brain that is constantly trying to work it out. Should I take this job? Should I quit? Should I start my business? Should I try this supplement? Should I do this diet? Should I break up with this person? Should I stay with this person? Whatever it is in terms of that realm of questioning, trying to figure out, what I want you to notice more than anything is the mechanism itself. Forget about what the potential outcome is and look at the means by which you're trying to assess what to do, which is this ad nauseum trying to figure out that which you don't know. In the space that we give ourselves when we stop trying to figure it out, new insights, new information, new out of the blue texts, emails show up that help us to navigate what we were trying to figure out by ourselves. Just notice that as a human being, your brain is designed to try and predict and protect. So you're trying to figure out the right thing to do where there isn't such a thing. And it's not even you. It's automated. You're not waking up in the morning and going, you know what I can't wait to do today is exhaust myself trying to figure out something that I don't know how to figure out. That will be a really fun and productive day. This is asking you to develop two of the words that I have struggled with the most, but try to embody as best as I can, which is trust and patience. That today, whenever you're listening to this, you don't know. Take a few deep breaths and realize right now, at this moment, I don't know. I don't know. To be at peace with uncertainty. Rest in the knowledge that life has got your needs met. Meaning you don't have to figure it out. You're a co-creator in life, yes, you'll take action, but when the inspiration is right and from an energy of inspiration, excitement, and possibility, not what I hear here, which is fear. When we're trying to figure it out, the underlying constraint that is normally at play is we don't feel safe. We don't trust. So when we're in the energy of fear, we don't make great decisions anyway. Find the deep level of trust and peace, and as I said, patience, when you can see the mechanism that's trying to figure it out, not you, your brain. It's a survival mechanism, it's primal. And don't get caught in that. You go, oh, okay, right now I don't know. Can I be okay just for now, not knowing? And trust the information will be presented to me in a timely fashion. That's the patience part. Whoever's listening to this has their own version of this. Should I, shouldn't I, don't know what to do, what's right, what's wrong. It's exhausting. I promise all of you the answer is the same. I don't know. The question is, to what degree can you embrace being at peace with uncertainty? That will make you a very powerful human being. So I hope that helps.
I love
Yeah,
how
that was good.
tied into Muji too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what he was saying when he's talking about, that's the essence of the mind. You know?
And what I like about even what he said about I don't know, R.J. Spina, sorry.
Yeah.
I was listening to him over the weekend, and I've heard him say this before, and I thought it was really fascinating because when you say it, there's this letting go. I don't know, and I don't care. If you use that as a mantra, because you don't know, and the I don't care means I'm not going to get pulled into whatever happens because I'm not going to let my ego. There's a couple of this is a quick, not just a mantra, it's a quick meditation to say, I don't know, and I don't care. That allows everything to come in and you experience it at the deepest level of awareness, right? So use that as your meditation.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And that means if you're okay with it, means you don't care what happens.
It's just, that's a great, And I
challenge anyone, just say that, I don't know. I really mean I don't know, and I don't care. It literally lets go of all the pressure of having to do that. And then I don't know, but I care if this happens. I'm like, no, I don't know, and I don't care. Mm-hmm. It's not like this giving up, like moping type of I don't care. It's like, no, I don't care. Bring it on, and let me experience this through the eyes of awareness. It's a powerful tool. It's a very direct route to this,
walking directly into the unknown and being okay with it.
That's how I walk around every day meditating. I don't know. I don't care. And then I start telling stories. And then you're like, is that real? I'm like, I don't know. It just sounds good, though.
It is very freeing when you live this way. I know that because every time I step forward without knowing, without having this game plan, trusting, not only does it work out, but it often works out better than I could have imagined, and with more surprises along the way, and in even more interesting or appealing or exciting thing, occurred that I could have never fathomed.
Yeah.
And that's what's so exciting about what they call the present moment.
Yeah, and the present moment the present moment and awareness can be said to be the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so don't try to project the present moment as another present moment, because that's where we get the headaches and the fighting with ourselves and the pain, because we think it's supposed to happen. We don't know it's supposed to happen, but we can maintain an essence of freedom of that. And Mike and I, anyone out there listening, give you the challenge to, throughout the day, try to seat yourself from the awareness. Then you can't stop experience. So I don't have to tell you go out and experience. It's something you can't stop. You could give your attention in a polarizing way to what's happening, but you can't stop the experience. So when you free yourself from like, I don't know, I don't care, and then see what happens. And if something triggers you, okay, there's a little work to be done there, to be aware of it. Look, now I'm aware that this upset me. Why did it upset me? That is the very essence of what we're here to search for. Mm-hmm. Why am I holding on to this thing that's disrupting my experience with the outside world? Because you can't stop it. You can't stop experiences. So stop doing that. Like even if you try to kill yourself, there's some other experience you're going to head into. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just seat yourself in awareness, step out, and hey, wherever you are in your journey, breath work. All right. Like I can go, I'm there. Or in the early on, it took me 15 minutes to do that.
A few deep breaths.
Yeah, a few deep breaths. But now what I do is I still do my breath work. I still go to the gym. I still do all these things. But prior to doing my breath work, I'll go, and then I go into the breath work. So I seat myself from awareness and then the expression outward. And all of a sudden, the breath work, I have no, like, what's going to happen? I'm like, let's see. I don't know. And then, when me and Mike get together every week, we do a breath work, and then we go into some meditation. And then we're like, we don't really talk about, like we used to talk about. Now it's like, oh, that was great. That was great. Mm-hmm. But Mike and I don't have any anticipation of what's going to happen. And even if we did the same breath work, technically, the experience was vastly different. But
every
yet,
time.
There was an essence that was always the same. And it was just that it felt good. And so step into that with just a simple breath. And then nice sigh out. All of a sudden you realize all the thoughts, even if it's for 2 seconds, got blown away. And when the thoughts leave you, what I'll say is your heart opens up, you feel lighter. All right? You just notice your frequency of your body is cohesive, not disruptive. The patterns of waves are not interfering. They're flowing with each other. And that's the essence of awareness. Yeah. I can't intellectually explain it any further than that. Maybe I'm not gonna give up, I'll tell you that.
I was gonna
My
say,
wife wishes I would, but
that's the fun part about this.
That's the fun part about perspective shift.
Always reaching to describe the indescribable.
Yeah.
And
then and if anyone out there has another way to get to this place, more direct, we would love to hear your experience. We love to hear it, because when Mike and I hear stuff, we love to share it. Yeah. We're not taking credit for it, because this stuff's been around since millennia, but we want to share all these things because we do see people suffering, and get this boot off my neck. And it's like, dude, it's your hand.
We're holding it.
Move your hand away from your neck. And it's like, no, this boot. Get the boot off, then I can move my hand. I'm like, no, it's your hand. Yeah. So it's like we want to share this information and see where it can help people. So we teach different, or we show different modalities from different people. But as I move further into the spiritual journey, or I don't know, further in, it's just happening. This little subtle things amaze me. Such as just, and there I am. And then I go out to the gym, and then I do that. Like a lot of times, my wife will be like, "Hey, do you have time? Are you busy right now?" And I'll go, and she's like, "Why do you always sigh?" I have to get ready.
I'm getting into
I'm
the
getting
zone.
ready for whatever the hell shit you're gonna throw at me today, honey.
I am here.
But I am
aware.
She would take it as like offense. I'm like, no, it's just natural
Setting the
releasing.
state.
Yeah. Natural releasing. Snaps a sigh quietly. He doesn't question me on my
it's the
side.
quiet side.
Like I'm getting ready.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But yeah.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. As always, Frank and I would love to, share this experience with you. I know 2024 has been a crazy year for, a very high energy year.
Been brilliant.
A lot of stuff has gone on this year, guys. And so this is clearing out from the depths of our souls, and we're all in this together. So as we, enter into this age of Aquarius, as we start to see the changes, carry out throughout the world, remember that this all goes back to what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. Remember how important that is, because it's from there that we're all sharing and experiencing this world.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please go to perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com. Yep. And we'd like to hear your stories. And again, if you have another little technique that's simple and easy, or I don't care even if it seems difficult, we like to share that with people, because we just don't know what resonates with everyone. There's not one thing that resonates with everyone. That's why there's a multitude of teachers. Exactly. And at some point, we're all going to be our own teacher. But in there, we're supporting each other, moving in the direction towards the light.
Let's share
from the light.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right. Much love and peace out.
See you next week.